The topic of bright futures, financial aid, college admissions is huge. And if you've been to these programs before, some of the things that I say all the time is everything changes and there's just too much to know. So by coming to programs like tonight, you're automatically going to kind of increase your chances of either getting aid, getting money, saving money on college and things like that. Because as a former guidance counselor, I'm frustrated that pretty much today the role of guidance counselors has changed so much that you're not getting the kind of information I feel that's really important in terms of college admissions, in terms of paying for it, all the changes in programs and things like that. So just to let you know, Solution Skills puts this on a regular basis. We do have not identical but pretty much the same program on December the 14th. For example, with Bright Futures and with many other scholarships, there is an SAT or ACT component. And I wish I had better data, but I can't tell you how many parents have come through us and bumped that score up a little bit to be eligible for whether it be scholarships, Bright Futures, or things like that. And that's something that we really enjoy, you know, in terms of your investment with us winds up really returning the investment for you. We do have a philosophy we think is really important, and this goes back to my days as a guidance counselor. We try to empower you and your students, okay, by getting information, by providing you the resources and the tools to make better decisions on your own. We are going to continue to offer programs of this nature. Now, some of the other topics that we're going to be doing probably in January and beyond, we're going to have another program on financial aid because financial aid season, application season with FAFSA is January 1, things like that. So we'll have other programs with different emphasis on this. We'll have programs relating to specific information about the SAT and the ACT. You would be surprised at how much bad information is out there.
I'm Chris Fiore. I go to Leon. I'm a senior there. I applied so far to FSU and Macaulay Honors College at the City University of New York. I'm also going to be possibly applying to New College.
I'm John Rains, Leon senior, and I've applied to Texas at Austin, Georgia Tech, UCF, UF, and possibly Stanford.
Well, definitely for me, a big part of it was actually Bright Futures. I'm applying for Bright Futures because college is really, really expensive nowadays. Of course, financially it's a lot harder for people to be able to afford it. So Bright Futures. Also, there's the freshman scholarship, which is something your kids should definitely look into. I know they offer that at FSU for students with good grades. But actually just today I ended up calling a school up in New York that I'm interested in applying to and waited on the phone for 20 minutes with the admissions people and finally talked to somebody, and they were actually really trying to get the call over with, but I found they were kind of busy. There were actually 15 calls ahead of me, the phone system said. So it's a really busy time. I found actually the most helpful thing for me was actually working with some other students at Solution Skills, doing my applications, because it kind of motivated me having the other kids around me.
So I would look at like financial aid places, because places like Stanford, if you make under $120,000 a year, it's free, and places like that. So like there's places that can, if you get in, it's a full ride and whatnot, or it's a percentage of tuition. So there's some high-end schools who think, oh, there's no way, but they're actually more affordable than like going to Georgia or something like that that's just right out of state. So I would say money-wise, look at like, don't just be, it's an Ivy League or something like that and knock it off because they have the most money to give, like surprisingly. They're like the easiest to actually pay for looking all the way through.
Yeah. And make sure you do your applications early, because I'm kind of in a time crunch now with trying to do schoolwork. It's the end of the 9 weeks and applications are due, so it's kind of hard.
I'm going to bring out our guest speaker. Theresa, I've known her for years and years, and what is great about her is the fact that she not only, projects information, answers questions beautifully. She's also, a mom of a recalcitrant? He's not here, right? Student going through this process, so she can relate to a lot of things that you guys are going through. But she will provide a great overview, and will set plenty of time aside for questions and answers. I'll come out and answer some things a little bit later. Theresa is actually, she has a real big fancy title. She works for the Florida Department of Education, but she's literally over the person over Bright Futures. So she pretty much knows her stuff. And this is not a fun job these days, I'll say it for her, but she has been so gracious to come out and basically let you know what she knows. So let's bring out Theresa Antworth.
you want the Bright Futures this year, the parents are having to file the FAFSA. We are in the throes of upcoming legislation, and that's one of the things we're looking at. We're looking at the data that came from the FAFSA to see how your legislators choose to deal with that information and move forward on it. They're requested on the application, and then how are they used? That's a federal application, and I hate to, it's extremely complicated. There has been a mission in the United States for the last 30 years to simplify the FAFSA. And it still hasn't been accomplished, if that helps give you an idea of how complicated it is. But to break it down, basically they look at your income, they look at the number of people in your household, they look at the number of people in college, they look at your gross income, they look at your assets, and then there's a complicated methodology that goes behind the scenes. And the EFC originally really was a ranking number. Out of everybody who filled out that FAFSA, where do you fall? You know, I fell at the 98th percentile. I fell at the 20th percentile. Well, it's a number. You have a ranking number. And the feds would then say, well, we've got $20 million. We can fund everybody at $3,000 up to this rank number. But that rank number became equated to a dollar amount. One of the questions I get a lot is, can you use Bright Futures and prepaid? Prepaid is very specific to, it'll pay tuition and fees. And that's tuition if you bought the tuition plan, fees if you bought the fee plan, etc., etc. And the answer is yes. Bright Futures, I'm going to go to, you know, I don't, if I talk about any of these other programs, loan, prepaid, etc., I'm not the source on that. You should certainly look it up and verify it. But Bright Futures gives you your funds to pay for the cost of education. Bright Futures came about in 1997, but in 1981, Florida has had merit programs for a long time, since 1981. Bright Futures expanded dramatically the scenario of who was eligible for these merit-based programs. The medallion program came into play and really is about 75% of this program. And says, I didn't know I was supposed to take that fourth math. Nobody told me. You know, my answer usually is, have you been reading the web? Did you go and look at any information? Did you sign the form that the counselors have a form that they usually have the students sign every year that says, I went to the counseling session, I got the information on Bright Futures. So if they're paying attention at those sessions, they're hearing what websites to go and look at. The GPA they need for the medallion scholarship is 3.0 in those 18 classes. Well, that's a no-brainer. Everybody should always be planning on paying for a little bit of college. Now, you know, take advantage of Randy. I mean, can you see the passion in what Randy says and does? I've known him for well over 15,